Hello. Today's story takes place in Bavaria, a state in southern Germany. It's the largest state by area and the second most populous in the country. The Danube River, Europe's second longest river, flows right through Bavaria. Sitting on its banks is the historic yet vibrant city of Ingolstadt, home to the headquarters of the Audi car company. Our main character is a 23-year-old woman named Sharaban K. She worked as a makeup artist and was also a beauty blogger. At the time, she was married and living with her husband in Ingolstadt. But in the summer of 2022, something very strange happened to her family, an incident that quickly made headlines across Germany. Let's rewind the clock and go back to August 16, 2022, to uncover the shocking details. On Tuesday, August 16th at 11:35 p.m., police in Ingolstadt received a distressing emergency call. A man reported that a couple was frantically trying to break into a black car parked near his home. According to him, their daughter was locked inside the vehicle and appeared to be unresponsive. Minutes later, officers arrived at the scene, a street not far from the Danube River. A crowd had already gathered. They watched as a man smashed a flower pot against the car door, while a woman collapsed to the ground in tears, nearly unconscious from crying. Peering through the window, police saw a woman lying motionless in the back seat, her face covered in blood. When the couple spotted the police, the man urgently begged them to open the car, claiming that the woman inside was their daughter, Sharaban. The officers quickly unlocked the door and sealed off the area. They pulled the woman from the vehicle, but tragically she had already stopped breathing. Her body was covered in stab wounds, and her face was so severely disfigured that it couldn't be visually identified. Even so, the grieving couple insisted it was their daughter. After all, it was her car. Inside the trunk, police discovered several knives. The initial investigation revealed that the couple's daughter was named Sharaban K. She was born in 1999 in Bavaria with family roots in Iraq. Sharaban was passionate about beauty and fashion. As she grew up, she became a professional makeup artist. Spotting the rise of short-form video platforms, she started her own channel and quickly gained followers as a beauty blogger. At just 19 years old, Sharaban married her current husband, a fellow Iraqi national. After their wedding, she stepped away from her work at a beauty salon and moved in with him in the city of Ingolstadt. Together, the young couple opened a hair salon and business quickly took off. They built a solid reputation and enjoyed early success. However, within 2 to 3 years, their once happy marriage began to unravel. The couple's arguments became more frequent and intense. At times, they even discussed divorce. Eventually, the tension became too much to bear, and Sharaban made the difficult decision to move back in with her parents in Munich. Though they were separated, her husband didn't give up easily. He repeatedly pressured Sharaban to come back. In one heated phone call, he even warned her with disturbing words, saying, "One day you'll be on your knees begging me." After the tragic incident, investigators interviewed Sharaban's parents. They described her as a kind, respectful daughter who never caused them any trouble. No matter what she was going through, she always remained positive and never complained. Regarding their daughter's marriage, her parents expressed deep concern. They said the couple often argued over trivial matters. Although the parents tried many times to help mediate, nothing changed. When Sharaban returned home, they assumed it was just a temporary break and believed the young couple would reconcile soon. But on August 16th, something unimaginable happened. Sharaban had told her parents that she wanted to return to Ingolstadt to have a final conversation with her husband, one that would bring the marriage to a definitive close. Although her parents were hesitant, they ultimately respected her decision. They continued telling police what happened that day. Early that morning, their daughter had driven off on her own, saying she'd return after settling things. Ingolstadt, being only about 43.5 miles away from Munich, made a round trip seem completely reasonable. But as night fell and she still hadn't come home, they began calling her repeatedly, only to hear that her phone was busy. Panic slowly started to set in. Worried that something might have happened to their daughter, Sharaban's parents rushed to Ingolstadt to search for her. Along the way, they noticed a black car parked by the side of the road. As they got closer and examined the license plate, they realized it was their daughter's car. At first, they assumed she had simply stepped out. But as they peered through the windshield, their hearts dropped. Sharaban was lying still in the back seat. Her face was covered in what appeared to be blood. Sharaban wasn't someone who went out much. She spent most of her time indoors, especially focusing on beauty tutorials and skincare research. It was part of her quiet, creative lifestyle. Based on her parents' testimony and the early evidence gathered at the scene, authorities initially believed her husband might be responsible. Investigators theorized that perhaps a meeting between the two turned into an argument, and that things may have taken a dark turn from there. At first glance, it seemed like an open and shut case, almost too predictable, just like the saying goes, "It's always the husband." But was that really the truth? Police quickly located the husband at his hair salon in Ingolstadt. When informed of what had happened to his wife, he was visibly shaken. After calming down, he explained that they had arranged to meet that day to talk about finalizing their divorce. For convenience, he'd asked Sharaban to come to the salon, but according to him, she never showed up. He waited the whole day and tried to call her, but her phone was constantly busy. The husband insisted he had nothing to do with the incident. He told police that he had been cutting clients' hair all day and never left the salon, not even once. He also mentioned that his wife rarely visited the shop as she preferred staying home to focus on creating beauty content. In his view, her career as a content creator wasn't sustainable long-term, and he had tried encouraging her to join him in running the business. This had become a recurring point of tension between them. A few months earlier, Sharaban had left home in frustration and returned to live with her parents. The husband had tried calling her numerous times in hopes of making peace, but she refused to speak with him and remained firm in her desire to separate. His version of events was later corroborated by the salon staff. They confirmed that Sharaban rarely visited the shop, and when she did, she would usually just sit around scrolling on her phone, not really engaging in the business. On the day of the incident, they told police that their boss, the husband, had stayed in the salon the entire day. The husband also handed over surveillance footage from the salon's security cameras. Police reviewed the recordings and found them to be a strong alibi. As a result, he was no longer considered a suspect. In an effort to gather more leads, the police released details of the case to the public and asked for help. Before long, a local resident came forward with a tip. He said that around 7 p.m. on the night of the incident, when he passed the area after work, he didn't notice any car parked along the road. Later that night, around 11 p.m., he went out again to grab a late-night snack. As he passed the same spot, he noticed a black car parked on the roadside. He didn't see anyone in the driver's seat. It was dark and he didn't look closely, so he couldn't say whether there was anyone in the back. Another local resident also came forward with potentially useful information. Around 8 p.m. on the same night, he happened to pass by the area and noticed a black car parked along the roadside. Being familiar with cars, he was curious enough to stop and take a closer look. While he was near the car, he noticed a shadowy figure moving quickly past it. The person appeared to be in a hurry. Due to the low lighting in the area, he couldn't make out the individual's face or any identifying features. While the police were still at a standstill, the autopsy report finally arrived, and it completely shifted the course of the investigation. The results were shocking. According to the findings, the victim had been stabbed 56 times and died from acute blood loss. Based on the characteristics of the wounds, the murder weapon was identified as a dagger, effectively ruling out the kitchen knives found in the victim's car. The estimated time of death was placed between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. on August 16th. But the most startling revelation came from the forensic DNA analysis. The victim was not Sharaban. The tests confirmed that the person found in the car was someone else entirely. The results left investigators completely puzzled. If the victim wasn't Sharaban, then who was she? Police then employed a variety of investigative techniques, including DNA matching, to identify the victim. Eventually, they were able to confirm her identity. A young woman named Khadija O, 23 years old, who lived in Heilbronn and had Algerian roots. She was the eldest of two sisters. Khadija's family resided in Algeria. No further details about her family were released to the public. Police only revealed that she was the same age as Sharaban and also worked as a beauty blogger. When comparing photos of Khadija and Sharaban, The resemblance was truly striking. Both women had similar brown hair, sun-kissed skin, high-bridged noses, and full lips. Even their makeup styles were nearly identical. At a glance, it was almost impossible to tell them apart. Khadijah's residence was about 124.27 miles away from the home of Sharaban's parents. At first glance, there didn't appear to be any connection between the two women. And yet somehow, Khadijah ended up in Sharaban's car. Investigators couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister was lurking beneath the surface of this case. Police informed Sharaban's parents of the shocking discovery. When they learned that the victim wasn't their daughter, they were utterly stunned and overwhelmed. Officers then showed them a photo of Khadijah and asked if they recognized the young woman. Both parents insisted they had never met her and had no idea how she might be connected to their daughter. Sharaban had never mentioned anyone named Khadijah. The direction of the case had now gone far beyond what the police initially expected. Still, investigators were convinced that Khadijah's death was somehow tied to Sharaban. If they could just find Sharaban, they believed all the remaining pieces of the puzzle would finally fall into place. The next day, police issued a nationwide warrant for Sharaban's arrest and appealed to the public for any information that might lead to her whereabouts. At the same time, investigators began reviewing surveillance footage along the route from Munich to Ingolstadt. What they discovered was unexpected. Sharaban never went to meet her husband that day. Instead, she had arranged to meet another man. The man was identified as Shakir K., 23 years old, and he was reportedly having an affair with Sharaban. The two had been seeing each other for some time. The location where the black car was found was not far from Shakir K.'s apartment, making him the next prime suspect in the case. To avoid alerting the suspect, the police discreetly contacted two of Shakir K.'s former girlfriends, hoping to gather more information about him. Unexpectedly, both women spoke positively about him. They said that during their relationships, Shakir K. had been thoughtful and attentive, always considerate of his partner's feelings, and knew how to make his girlfriend happy. Although they ultimately parted ways, both still wished him happiness. Neither of them believed that Shakir K. was capable of harming anyone. However, the truth was that Shakir K. had indeed been inside Sharaban's car on the day the crime took place. Earlier, when questioned, Sharaban's parents made no mention of their daughter having a lover. This raised suspicions among investigators, who decided to revisit the parents for further questioning. However, they insisted they knew nothing about Sharaban's romantic life. According to them, she rarely spoke about her relationships, and they had no idea she was involved with anyone. On the third day after the crime, investigators traced a cell phone signal and were finally able to pinpoint Sharaban's location. That evening, police arrested her at a pizza restaurant in Ingolstadt. The restaurant owner later recalled that when Sharaban entered the shop, she appeared anxious and unsettled, constantly glancing toward the door. When asked if she needed any help, she simply shook her head and looked down, fidgeting with her phone. Immediately after Sharaban's arrest, police moved in on Shakir K.'s apartment, preparing to take him into custody as well. Several officers stood outside his door, identified themselves, and requested that he cooperate. But Shakir refused to come out. He was hiding inside the apartment and warned officers that if they tried to force their way in, he might do something reckless. As the situation grew tense, police continued trying to persuade Shakir K. to come out while also preparing to break down the door if necessary. After a standoff that lasted for some time, the operation ended without violence. Both suspects, Sharaban and Shakir, were taken into custody. When questioned by police, both Sharaban and Shakir K. remained silent, refusing to answer. But as investigators examined their phones, they uncovered something unexpected. Sharaban had been using multiple Instagram accounts, each under a different identity. Some of these accounts had previously contacted the victim, Khadijah. This discovery raised serious concerns about premeditation. The messages revealed that Sharaban had posed as a professional makeup artist, claiming to have access to high-end cosmetics at discounted prices. She told Khadijah that she had seen her videos online, complimented her beauty, and expressed interest in hiring her as a makeup model, offering the promise of a long-term contract. Khadijah appeared genuinely excited by the opportunity. The two arranged to meet in person, with Sharaban enthusiastically offering to pick her up herself. As the evidence mounted, Sharaban and Shakir K eventually cracked under psychological pressure and confessed to murdering Khadija. It turned out the two had been planning the crime for quite some time. In order to stage a fake crime scene, they searched online for a target, specifically looking for women who resembled Sharaban. Tragically, Khadija had unknowingly become their chosen victim. In fact, Sharaban and Shakir K had identified 5 potential women. After careful consideration, they chose Khadija because her physique, appearance, age, and profession all closely matched Sharaban's. She was the most suitable choice for their twisted plan. After selecting their target, Sharaban created multiple social media accounts to get close to Khadija. At first, she pretended to be a well-known local rapper to approach her. She claimed to have seen Khadija's videos online, praised her for her charisma, and said she'd be perfect as the female lead in her upcoming music video. Sharaban expressed a desire to meet with Khadija to discuss filming plans. However, Khadija was a very cautious girl. She didn't agree right away and said she needed to consult with her family first. Later, Khadija took the initiative to message the rapper directly to verify the information. Naturally, the real rapper replied that she had no idea what was going on. After being exposed by Khadija, Sharaban immediately abandoned that fake account and created a new one. This time, Sharaban pretended to be a professional makeup artist. Thanks to her previous work experience, she was able to talk to Khadija about beauty techniques without raising any suspicion. Khadija completely believed that Sharaban was a genuine beauty blogger. Knowing that Khadija was very interested in cosmetics, Sharaban took full advantage of this passion to get closer to her. As expected, Khadija was completely convinced this time, and had no suspicions like before. She happily agreed to meet in person. On the day of the incident, Sharaban drove from Munich to Ingolstadt to pick up Shakir K. Then the two of them traveled to Heilbronn to pick up Khadija. During the ride, the three chatted happily. The relaxed atmosphere made Khadija feel completely at ease. When the car reached a remote forest area, Sharaban pulled over, using the excuse that she wanted to enjoy the scenery with Shakir K. Khadija followed them out of the car. Suddenly, Shakir K. pulled out a dagger he had hidden on him and began stabbing Khadija repeatedly. Before she could even grasp what was happening, Khadija collapsed to the ground. Shakir K. then continued to stab the victim more than 50 times. According to their plan, the two killers deliberately disfigured Khadija's face, then threw the murder weapon into the forest. They placed Khadija's body on the back seat and drove away from the scene. Sharaban knew that if she didn't come home by late evening, her parents would surely go looking for her. So she purposely drove the car to a road near the Danube River, a route her parents often passed by. Sharaban's parents had unknowingly become pawns in their own daughter's scheme. Based on the initial statements from Sharaban and Shakir K., the police went to the forest to search for the murder weapon but found nothing. They began to doubt the killer's version of events, as there were no signs of a crime scene in the area. Investigators suspected that the actual murder may have taken place elsewhere. To clarify their suspicions, the police continued interrogating Sharaban. This time she confessed that they did not kill Khadija in the forest but only knocked her unconscious there. Afterward, they drove her to a parking lot in Heilbronn. It was there that Shakir K. carried out the murder, and they disposed of the weapon in a nearby bush. The police immediately went to the parking lot to search. However, the bushy area was vast, making the search for the weapon extremely difficult. After an extensive but unsuccessful search, the police had no choice but to give up. Although the murder weapon was never found during the investigation, police discovered that a year earlier, Sharaban had contacted a friend and offered him a large sum of money to help her kill a relative. However, for unknown reasons, the plan was never carried out. The friend later testified to police that exactly 1 year ago, Sharaban had indeed asked him to commit murder and even transferred him a significant amount of money. But he felt the plan was too insane and ultimately refused returning the money to Sharaban. For security reasons, the police did not disclose the identity of the relative Sharaban intended to kill. However, it's clear that Sharaban was a cold-blooded individual who dared to plan a murder. The case quickly attracted massive public attention. The media dubbed it the doppelganger murder case. Doppelganger is a supernatural concept referring to the eerie or spiritual phenomenon where a person's ghostly double appears elsewhere. According to legend, encountering such an apparition is often seen as an omen of misfortune or even impending death. Some people found Khadijah's TikTok account. One video posted just a week before the murder stood out as particularly unusual. It was simply a photo of some buildings with a haunting caption. "Before I leave, I want to take one last look." This video added an eerie and mysterious layer to an already chilling case. Speaking about the case, police described it as highly unusual and said it required investigators to draw upon every skill they had. We don't come across cases like this every day, especially not one with such dramatic and bizarre elements. On the day we discovered the body, we had no idea the investigation would unfold in this direction, an officer stated. Because the two suspects refused to reveal their motive, netizens began to speculate wildly. One theory suggested that both Sharaban and Khadijah were beauty bloggers. In an increasingly competitive environment, Sharaban may have developed jealousy toward her peer. After watching Khadijah's videos and realizing that Khadijah was outperforming her, Sharaban may have wanted to eliminate the competition. She discussed this plan with Shakir K, who agreed to help. Since Sharaban and Khadijah looked alike, they came up with a plan to commit murder and stage a fake crime scene in order to escape prosecution. Many believe that this idea was inspired by the famous 1998 Mexican television drama La Usurpadora, Paula and Paulina. The series tells the story of two women who look exactly alike but live completely different lives. Paulina is a poor girl working at a bar who is constantly mistreated, while Paula is a wealthy housewife bored with her confined lifestyle. After some coercion, Paula convinces Paulina to swap identities. Paulina becomes the rich housewife, while Paula gains her freedom to run off with her lover. However, the storyline of the show is purely fictional and highly unlikely to happen in real life. That's why many people believe that Sharaban and Shakir K were incredibly naive to think their plan could actually fool anyone. Others speculated that Khadijah may have been romantically involved with a local rapper named Fatih. Sharaban happened to know Fatih and developed feelings for him. Driven by jealousy, she allegedly asked Fatih to harm Khadijah. However, Fatih refused. Sharaban became furious, blaming Khadijah for the situation, and began plotting to kill her with her accomplice. In response to the rumors, Fatih publicly denied any involvement. He stated that Khadijah was a kind and beautiful girl who treated him with respect and insisted that their relationship was purely platonic. He firmly denied having any romantic ties with Khadijah. At the same time, some speculated that Sharaban's relationship with her husband was deeply troubled. She had allegedly endured domestic violence for a long period. Eventually, in a fit of anger, she returned to her parents' home, where she later met her current boyfriend, Shakir K. However, when her husband found out, he flew into a rage and declared he would take matters into his own hands to end Sharaban's life. Sharaban was from Iraq, a place with traditional family values where women held little status and were not allowed to act against their husbands. Wanting to be with her loved ones forever, she devised this plan. Her goal was to break free from her husband's control and reclaim her freedom. On the day of the crime, she planned to meet the other man. The police would first suspect her husband, who could be charged, while Sharaban could change her identity and start a new life with her lover. Some also said that Sharaban's life was very chaotic. She had relationships with multiple men besides Shakir K, including another boyfriend. Her parents strongly disapproved of her behavior, leading to frequent arguments. Sharaban was emotionally volatile. Unable to endure her family's criticism, she wanted to take a drastic step to end it all, but she was also deeply afraid. After careful thought, she decided to involve someone close to her. If successful, she could finally escape her parents' constant nagging forever. However, so far these speculations remain unconfirmed. The truth is still a mystery, and no official conclusion has been reached. After the incident, many locals spontaneously came to the crime scene to lay flowers and light candles in memory of Khadijah, mourning the loss of an innocent life. Photos of Khadijah and the singer Furkan were placed under a large tree by the roadside. Furkan himself braved heavy rain to visit the site and pay his respects. Khadijah's younger sister, who lived far away in Algeria, happened to learn about her sister's death online. She was devastated and broke down in tears. Khadijah's mother later received the tragic news as well. Unable to accept the reality, she fainted on the spot. She had poor health and suffered from severe epilepsy. It took her a long time to come to terms with this heartbreaking truth. Determined to seek justice for her eldest daughter despite her fragile health, she traveled alone to Germany. Reporters contacted Khadijah's mother to inquire about the situation. She shared that on the day her eldest daughter passed away, something strange happened at home. A picture frame hanging on the wall suddenly fell and shattered. Inside the frame was a photo of her eldest daughter. At the time, she didn't pay much attention to it, but looking back now, she is certain it was a sign. She shared with reporters, "I worry that my daughter's rights will be trampled on. The person who killed her might walk free without facing justice. If possible, I want to attend the trial of the one who took my daughter's life and hear the verdict. That way I can tell my daughter in heaven that justice has been served." In January 2024, 2 years after the incident, the official trial was held at the local court in Ingolstadt. The defendants Sharaban and Shakir were charged with murder. More than 190 witnesses took the stand one after another to testify. At the trial, the defendants Sharaban and Shakir remained silent throughout. Sharaban even covered her face with an object during the entire proceeding. The trial is still ongoing. If convicted, both of them face the maximum penalty of life imprisonment. As of now, the trial is still underway and no final verdict has been reached. According to close sources, the motive behind the crime was Sharaban's desire to escape her family's control, which led her to recklessly carry out this cruel act. The case left a deep impression on people's hearts and offered valuable lessons. The tragic death of the young woman stands as a stark reminder of the dark side hidden beneath the glamorous facade of modern life. Even if justice is served, the emotional scars left by the case will not easily fade from the hearts of those left behind. That brings us to the end of today's video. See you all in the next ones. Goodbye.